with some kind of a set of connections and with enough case material. And that became that book. Now the case material is very important because I knew that consulting was giving recommendations to people about how they could improve. And indeed, Ken Olson had asked me to improve the group process that they were undergoing. And as many of you who've read my stuff know, I tell this case over and over again. I was telling that group of unruly electrical engineers who could do nothing but shout at each other and interrupt and behave in a really irresponsible way. I tried to teach them how to be a little more civilized, appropriate, and get better work done. And they always thanked me and never changed. And so I did give up. And if you read stuff about therapy, you will discover that there are often times when therapists give up and say, I'm just going to sit back and let whatever the patient has to say flow over me. So I gave up and just started to sit in the group and try to figure out, why are they so damn impolite? And so, you know, and then I began to see what later came to be viewed as their culture, but I didn't use that terminology at the time. I realized that they were inventing a new industry, and they were young, academically trained electrical engineers for whom the only way of judging what's true or not is to argue it out, and any idea that survives must be the one that's right. So if you have a problem with an idea, the team response was to shoot it down, argue until you're blue in the face. So I figured out, you know, if that was the reason they were doing what they were doing, obviously I wasn't going to reform them. So what could I do? And then somehow, and there's an artistry in this, the muse told me that somehow they were losing information in all this arguing. So I really don't know how I came to this, but I wandered up to the flip chart one day, and person A got half of an idea out, and I wrote it down, and then somebody interrupted him, and without thinking I said, I didn't get all of that. And that stopped the interrupter, and I got the rest of the idea. And the next time somebody got interrupted, I discovered I again had the power to not say bad boy to the interrupter, but I didn't get all the information. And that transformed the group. So I learned process consultation. I had to help them do what they were trying to do. And that intervention of going to the blackboard did it. There was no way I could have invented that, anticipated it. It had to come out of the interaction with the client. And then one other example to illustrate how important the client is. In the 60s and 70s, surveys were very popular. One day Ken Olson called me in and said, Ed, I want you to do a survey of our engineering group, which was maybe 100 or so people in various groupings. And pay attention carefully. I said to Ken Olson, a normal kind of question, when would you like this done? When would you like to see the results? And he shot back immediately and said, I don't want to see the results. Think about that. I want you to do a survey. I don't want to see the results. So think how unusual that is. When most people who license something give you all, tell me buy such and so, and then they want to massage the data. That's when I learned how to do upward cascading of survey results. Go to the people who gave you the results first, see what they want to do with it. So the point I'm trying to make is most of what I learned from the client, not from theory, by really responding to what they were doing. And that's going to be your experience. Different clients will want different things. And you better be ready to work with them rather than out of some textbook.
Tell us, you started this.
There's not going to be any difficulty in having a conversation, I can see that. I am the odd one out here. You know, one thing that's common with us is that we got here through very serendipitous means. None of us started off to be OD people. No, in fact, we didn't even know what it was when we started off. My background is mechanical engineering, and my hope in life was to become an aeronautical engineer. So I went to Lehigh University and I graduated from there in '53, and immediately went to work for a refrigeration and air conditioning company, which we didn't fly anything. And I thought, oh, I wonder how interesting this is going to be, you know, making things cold or making them hot. And it turned out that it was an extraordinary education in that all of the applications required going out and learning about the businesses. You know, if you're going to help somebody create an ice rink, you've got to know about the business. You've got to know about the hardness of the ice. If you want to, you know, refrigerate bananas on a banana boat, there's a whole lot of issues around ripening, and they're in an SO2 environment and that kind of thing. And so I'm reflecting on it. I was just listening to you guys and I was reflecting on how the heck did I learn all this stuff?
Right.
And you know, it was because I had to go out and learn from the client what the heck they wanted. And I was providing engineering services. I was providing turnkey systems, doing the design and then overseeing the construction. And the other was project management. And actually, then I get into machine design and got into doing that and developing those kinds of things. So how in the world did I ever get to doing what I did for most of my life, you know? And I think there was another component, and that is I always liked to teach. I taught Sunday school in my church for 16 years with young adults, and you know, and did it differently than we were supposed to do it. In fact, so differently we were relegated to the boiler room. Because, you know, it was supposed to be standing up and reading everything and going through all the rubrics. And we actually had dialogue. And we bothered everybody else, so they sent us down to the boiler room, and we actually sat around this big boiler in the church. And that's where we had our meetings. But that was another dimension. So that coupled with the engineering experience, I was with Ford Warner Corporation for 15 years, and doing sales training, sales development, that kind of thing. And in 1965, I was reflecting on this. I was at a meeting of the National Society of Sales Training Executives. We were in Chicago, and there were 120 members, maximum, of this society, although our meetings twice a year, we'd have a couple thousand people would come. And one of the speakers in the Chicago meeting was a guy by the name of Lawrence. His last name was Lawrence. And he said something about there's a new development coming that's going to affect selling. And he said, it's called organization development.
Wow. What year?
65. 65. And he had a book. I can't even remember the title of the book anymore. Do you remember, Roger?
Well, did he write a book with Lorsch? Lawrence and Lorsch?
No, it wasn't Lawrence and Lorsch. It wasn't that Lawrence. This was another guy, and I can't really cite it. You know, I do remember it because it was the first time I even heard the term. This is 65, okay? And so, anyway, as things would have it, I was at another meeting in Niagara Falls of the NSSTE, had made a presentation, and at the end of the meeting, a guy comes up to me and he says, "You've got to come to work for Weyerhaeuser Company." I said, "Who are you?" And he told me. And he said, we're on the verge of doing something really different in big corporations. It's called organization development, and I like what I hear you saying, and I want you to come work with us."